Hello and welcome to the Raptors Show on the Sportsnet Radio Network. Make sure you find the Raptors Show wherever you listen to podcasts and subscribe, and please rate and review the show. A reminder, we're streaming live on Sportsnet's YouTube channel and airing live on Sportsnet 360, Monday to Friday from 2 to 3 p.m. I'm your host, William Lou. I'm joined by producer and co-host Alex Wong. This will be the one program on the station in the next few hours that won't be talking about McCabe because we're talking about the Toronto Raptors, who got blown out last night by the Cleveland Cavaliers. Alex, how you doing?
I'm good. Was last night's game just a schedule loss for you, or are you taking more from it than that?
No, I mean, I think I took more out of it than that. I mean,
Okay.
I think obviously the conditions weren't ideal, but at the same time, I'm not trying to look at schedule losses right now when the Raptors need every game. Like as we
I
said
like
last
that.
weekend, on Friday when the Raptors were riding the high of a 3-game win streak, which was extended to 4, by the way, against Detroit.
It's great.
We said though both games were must win, and so I'm not really necessarily trying to hear about the scheduled results in that sense. But no, I think the Raptors just got beaten like front to back by the Cavaliers, and I thought the Raptors at least did a decent job of sort of staying in it. Like they weren't completely out of the game until the third quarter, but also like, what am I really saying? Like they really after cutting it to 4 points in the third, the Cavs just completely dominated them, and I thought that their top 4 just looks so impressive the way they're able to move in concert with each other. They're able to set up so many plays for each other. Defensively, obviously, their 2 guys at the basket is really, really good, and the Raptors don't have a lot of three-point shooting anyway. And yeah, the result was the Raptors got blown out for the first time in what felt like almost a month. Like, the Raptors have actually been very competitive. That's part of the reason why some of these losses have stung so hard, is because they've actually fought really well and stayed on a lot of games, and the defense was strong. Tonight or last night was kind of like none of that. So yeah, they got beat. Plus, Donovan Mitchell is just really nice, man.
Yeah, we had him locked up pretty nice. I feel like the first 3 games.
Yeah, I mean, game 1 he did
of the
on
season.
home opener. He had like 30 something.
Right, but then the next few games, you kind of didn't really hear much from him. But
Yeah.
Mr. 71 points. Went off yesterday. That was the worst loss of the season for the Raptors. Who were saying? I feel like they've got blown out more.
No,
than
I just mean they haven't been blown out that much.
It's been a
recently.
while since
Yeah.
they've had one of these, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, and with Garland and Mitchell, they just have a really nicely built team, man. They got the 2 guards who can create. Evan Mobley. I was really impressed with Evan Mobley. Thought he's just made some nice strides here in the second season.
Got you.
Defensive presence there. The offensive game is still,
Lobs and dunks.
Yeah,
Catch and shoot
TBD,
threes in the
TBD.
corners. I mean, look,
But him and Jared Allen together, like that's a force, man.
No, of course, absolutely, and I think that I mean, they just played really well together. I think that more than anything else. I think the difference in the 2 rosters was, the Raptors have this like new team building philosophy of putting all these forwards together and having a lot of size, and they've added center to that as well. But what you don't really hear is about guard play, right? The Raptors don't emphasize guard play in that same way. Like Fred VanVleet is out for the last just weekend, basically.
Yeah, congrats on
And
the new baby.
Congrats on the new baby for Fred. Very happy to see that. But Fred is out, and the Raptors have like nobody really to turn to at the guard spot. And meanwhile, you look on the other side for Cleveland, they build a very, very traditional starting 5, right? Like Darius Garland is as classic of a point guard as it really gets. He's a very, very good player. He's going to be an all-star in this league. He's just very, very nice in general, right? 11 assists last night, no turnovers. Donovan Mitchell is your classic shooting guard. Definitely very explosive scorer, scores at all 3 levels. I thought the finish to the third quarter where he had the pull-up 3, he banked it in, but still he made a number of pull-up 3s in the course of this game. He had the drive where kind of Dwayne Wade-esque, where you Euro step through the lane and then you like cup the ball and then you sweep it over top of the head of your defender and you avoid the charge and then you lay it in. Like it's just a really, really beautiful move. Then a super quick come off the screen, step into the mid-range, stop on a dime, pull up. Like that's true 3-level scoring right there, right? When you have that type of ability to score, he's a very classic 2 guard. Whoever they play at 3 is basically just 3 and D. And then Mobley is a 4 and Allen's a 5. And they look exactly like, you would see if you read about basketball in a textbook in terms of what each position does. They just try to find the best guys to do at each job. Versus the Raptors, it was just like, okay, at all times we have 4 forwards on the floor. Nobody shoots the ball. So, I mean, it's not a surprise. We've seen like patterns of this over the year and last year as well. But it was fun and funny watching the two teams play because even though the Raptors had used their style to effectively beat Cleveland's style in the previous 3 games, in this game, it felt very much like they looked like they were playing two different sports, based on the strategies they were using.
Yeah. No, I think, you mentioned Garland as a 3-level scorer. How many 3-level scorers do we have on our roster, you think?
I'm not gonna lie to you, probably 0.
Okay.
We have a 2.5 level score, so we have Pascal, who obviously can definitely score in the mid range, definitely score at the basket.
Yeah, the threes come and go.
Threes come and go. That's why I'm saying half, right?
Okay.
We also have a 2.5 level score.
Yeah.
Fred is,
Fred's a 2-level. I feel like he shoot from 3, the mid range.
Yeah.
I think at the basket's a little bit problematic.
For sure, absolutely. So let's say 2.
Yeah.
And then we have Gary, who scores from
Gary's
threes.
a 10-level scorer.
Sorry to Gary, by the way, for the Raptors Show curse. I'm sorry, man.
Oh yeah, did he fall for the curse? Oh yeah, he 2 of 13 yesterday, I think.
Yeah, it was a tough game for him.
Okay, another curse.
Stuffed by Darius Garland as well.
So
but
let's not request Jeff Down Jr. anytime soon then. Yeah.
I don't know. Make that request. But we just don't have that type of scoring, I think, especially shot generation.
Yeah. That's why I asked you.
Exactly.
I think when you look at a Garland, Mitchell, obviously we talked about it. It's like Raptors are really lacking in those like individual scorers.
Here's a better question. How many 3-level scores have the Raptors ever had in franchise history?
Yeah, I mean, that's true. What
2?
are you talking, like Vince, Kawhi?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's it?
That's kind of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, DeMar had that one stretch where he shot threes well for 2 months. Yeah. Remember that?
Okay. Sure.
Remember when we hyped that up so much and then you check the stats and he was shooting 33%? It was that one year when he was consciously shooting threes.
Right.
And
he's
that was
there's a line on the floor for an extra point.
Oh, God.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Anyway.
No, I'm just saying. I just want to point that out.
Yeah.
Because I think it really stuck out this weekend without Fred. Just seeing the offense struggle, right? Like the win on Saturday against Detroit, Pascal really just had to carry them on the offensive end, and that got them barely a victory in Detroit, which at this point in the season, take the wins, man.
Yeah.
I really don't care. I mean, I care a little bit how it looks, but
that was like
win's a win.
That was a really gritty performance. And yeah, offensively, you didn't really see much. And I think that's been the pattern here. Like, I didn't think offensively they showed a great showing against the Pelicans. If anything, it was just Jakob Poeltl had every putback in the world, and that carried their fourth quarter scoring. We saw the Detroit game was very ugly. They were at, I think, 95 points. I saw a stat from John Schumann online that was like the second lowest effective field goal percentage for a win this season from any team.
Raptors just be out here setting records, man. I love it.
Yeah. It's like that's such a nasty record to have of like the second lowest effective field goal percentage in a win. I'm truly curious to see who else actually had the first one. And then last night they only scored 93 points, and meanwhile, like, Cleveland was just sort of throwing the ball into the ocean. It was so easy for them, right? And I think that what it really comes down to is just like you don't really have depth in terms of that skill set. Obviously, you miss Fred, right? And you have here in the notes, what's Fred averaging in February?
Yeah, Fred's averaging over 22 points. The 7.4 assists, I think, is key too, in terms of the playmaking. And he's making over 3 threes per game. And in the last 3 games without Fred, the Raptors haven't made double-digit 3-pointers. 9 of 31 against New Orleans, 7 of 26 against Detroit, 9 of 25 from Cleveland. And we've seen this across the whole seon. Like, the 3-point shooting has just been a huge issue, and they've had to battle to win these games. But especially when Fred is out, and especially when guys like OG and even Gary are struggling, like, you just really have nothing from the perimeter.
Yeah, and that goes to the team building philosophy, right? Like, they haven't really stacked up on guard skills on the roster, right? At some point, I was watching the game and I was like, wow, like, Garland is running the offense really, really well. And he's pairing so well with these bigs and essentially just spoon-feeding these guys, right? And I'm watching Mitchell, and I'm like, this guy could score at all 3 levels. You got to give him the ball, get out of the way, or he can play within the team scheme. He's able to get out in transition. He's just looking great in general. And then meanwhile, on the other side, the Raptors are running post-ups for Chris Boucher and pick and roll for Jeff Dowden. And I'm just like, okay, well, this is not going to go well if that is how this game is going to be played. I think specific to the point about the guard depth, I mean, look, so when Fred is out of the game, right? The concerns that I have are sort of, can the Raptors get a good shot? Can the Raptors run their offense? And also, who can knock down some threes? More than anything else, that's my biggest concerns, right? And when you look at it, Fred is second on the team in drives per game, right? The Raptors, so much of their offense is drive, touch the paint, kick it out, start the momentum, and then make something happen out of that momentum, right? Fred drives the ball 14 times a game. He shoots 42% on those drives, which, it doesn't sound that great, but honestly, when you look across the board, a lot of the Raptors are shooting under 40% on drives, but still 42%. 1.5 free throws per game out of his drives. He makes those at 96%. He gets 2 assists per game on his drives. He has the highest assist percentage on the team in terms of off his drives, and he passes the most often out of his drives at 58% of his drives. And in terms of turning the ball over and protecting the ball, he only turns it over on 4% of his drives. So there is a really good and not just, I would say it's good, but it's also high volume, right? And I think for the volume in this case is very important, because it's one thing if you have lots of guards in the team and Fred's driving 14 times and doing this, I'd be like, okay, well, maybe we could spread it out a little bit. When you see him out of the lineup, who's having to drive more? It's Scotty having to drive more. It's Gary having to drive more. It's Jeff Doughton getting a chance to drive the ball more. And in the last 3 games without Fred in the lineup, Scotty has driven the ball 39 times. He has shot 5 of 19 on those drives. He has no free throw attempts on those drives. He has 2 assists and 3 turnovers on those drives, right? So 5 of 19, no free throws, 2 assists, 3 turnovers.
Yeah, not great.
Gary Trent, I like that he's driving the ball more, right, as an approach. But, again, the results haven't been there, and that's why the offense has been a little ugly. Gary has driven the ball 15 times in those 3 games. He shot 3 of 11 from the field. He has 1 assist and 1 turnover. And then Jeff Doughton has driven the ball 14 times. He's actually 4 of 9 from the field, which is decent, but he doesn't have an assist, and he has 1 turnover as well. So it's like Pascal's still able to play his game, and I feel like that hasn't even been impacted all that much. But at the same time, it's just like that extra slack. Who else is going to pick up those reps? That hasn't really been there for the team. And then, of course, in terms of the three-point shots, we just know that there's just not enough three-point shooting on the Raptors. Like, yes, Pascal can increase his three-point volume, and he's been shooting it decently. He hit 4 of 9 last night. That's pretty good. Scotty's shooting the 3 a little bit more as well. You saw Nick Nurse encouraging guys, OG, to fire away. OG, in his case, I just think he's overall really rusty. So I'm not really holding it against him. But overall, the Raptors have made, as you mentioned, 9, 7, and 9 threes. And on the season, the Raptors have only won 34% of their games making single-digit three-pointers. So, yeah, I think it's you don't have anyone on the roster to replace Fred in terms of what he does. Maybe guys can grow into that eventually, but that's probably going to be more of a long-term thing. And I think, if you want to not have such a sharp drop-off in terms of not having the guys sort of pick up some of these added reps, you would actually need to add more depth at the position. But we've been saying this for 2 years now.
Yeah, and that's going to be, again, big question going into the offseason, right? If you're not going to meet whatever Fred's contract demands are, that's a huge hole that they're going to have to plug in, especially because, like you said, there just isn't anybody on the roster right now that can step into that starting point guard role or step into the role where they have Fred's skill set.
Yeah, and that's where I think that, there's been so much discussion on the show this year and also just in lots of online spaces about, okay, we move on from Fred, right? I mean, if you've been anywhere online and covering and following the Raptors, you have seen this as a very prevalent sort of idea. But I think it's not just you move on from him if you want to move on from him. It's who do you replace him with? Because you can't just give him nothing else in return for him. If he walks in free agency, for example, you need to sign and trade at the minimum because of the fact that you just don't have that added level of skill sets on the roster. And listen, maybe you want to build and open up that space and you want to let the other guys step into it. That's fine. But I do think that then you would have to really accept a transition period where the Raptors become a team where they consistently struggle to score 100 points. And what's the appetite for that?
Yeah, I don't think there's much of an appetite for that. The other thing, too, for me, looking at the Cavs loss yesterday and just seeing, like you mentioned, the difference in the quality of the teams is that, the Raptors are now 14-25 this season against teams above 500. And with the 20 games left and as they're trying to make a push up this play-in, and, we've talked about what their schedule is looking like ahead. This is another thing that I feel like we need to see from them that we just haven't seen outside of maybe 2 or 3 games all season is them kind of playing up to the competition and like beating teams that are like ahead of them in the standings and kind of matching them. Like it's just you look at the West Coast trip that they're going to go on when they have to play Denver, the Clippers and the Lakers and things like that. Like, that's something that I think we need to see too. Like as much as Jakob's addition, has been great, and we've seen that what he's brought to the team. Like I think a game like yesterday really exposes, and the things that we've talked about, the things that they're still missing on this roster, right?
Oh yeah.
And I guess this is part of the evaluation process, but I just don't feel so great about them here down the stretch, about their ability, given the talent on the roster and the way the roster is constructed, that they're going to be able to compete against some of those top tier teams.
That's what you ultimately need to see, because the goal of chasing to get to the playoffs is to then play one of these teams consistently, right? And honestly, before last night's game, you would have thought about it as, okay, if the Raptors finish the season really strong and they get out of the play-in scenario, or even if they are in the play-in scenario, they secure one of the playoff spots and then they go into these matchups. Cleveland was probably the only team that out of the top four where you're like, okay, maybe we can do something against them. Like maybe, right? Because I think Philadelphia has improved from last year. I think Boston has been as good as last year, and also they've added more pieces. And then Milwaukee's still Milwaukee, right? So Cleveland was that one team where you were like, okay, we're 3-0 against them this season. OG can really do something against Mitchell, and if he keeps him quiet the whole time, and everyone else you can sort of maintain a little bit, you can be competitive in that series, right? That was the hope. And of course, just one game doesn't necessarily dash all those hopes, but that's exactly the goal, right? You want to be able to compete against some of these other teams. And I think that's where, again, when I look ahead to the Raptors, if they make the playoffs, and this is not a when they make the playoffs, it's a really a huge if they make the playoffs. I'm really concerned about what their offense is going to look like. I think defensively that has improved. I think even Jakob Poeltl yesterday played his role decently. I like that they're giving him the ball more in the high post. I like that he's occasionally looking to take it himself to the basket, because in the Raptors offense, so much of it is you get the ball and then you got to take it to the basket.
Right.
There's no thoughts, no planning, it's a lot of it is just here you go. With all due respect,
it appears that way this season.
Like, what is that offense going to look like in the playoffs when teams are double and triple teaming Pascal, or they're blitzing Fred out of the group, and it's like, can you get enough offense? Or if you play those guys in single coverage, can the Raptors beat a switching type of defense consistently? I'm not totally sure about that. And in addition to that, what is their late game offense going to look like? Because that's also the other part too, is you can compete in the playoffs and you can stay close and you get to the close games at the very end. Who's a guy closing those kind of huge possessions out for you, especially when the whistle changes and the physicality ramps up and the intensity and the familiarity of the reps? That's where I'm just like, okay, I'm pretty concerned. But of course, right now, the bigger concern is just like, okay, how do they win more of these games in the regular season to even get there? Because that's the direction they've chosen. They've brought Jakob Poeltl into this group. They want to see how this sort of new piece sort of brings them together. I think there's been strong results on that front early on, but at the same time, we're talking about strong results against like Detroit twice and New Orleans.
Without Zion.
Yeah.
So, no, that part is tough.
Are you worried about OG at all watching them right now?
Yeah, I mean, that was the other question I had for you, is like, are there ways that the Raptors should be getting OG more involved? He played 39 minutes against Detroit and had 7 shots, 2 of 7, and 34 minutes yesterday, 3 of 7. And just watching the game, it just doesn't seem like he's really getting the touches on offense or really getting involved. But I know on the flip side, we've talked about sometimes when, OG does, go into his freestyle bag and tries to go, pull off his one-on-one moves. The results aren't great either. So like, how do we find this balance of getting OG, more involved in the offense in a role that suits him? Because it seems like he just hasn't been a part of it here in the last couple of games.
Yeah, I hear that. I think. Okay, the Pelicans game for OG, he just missed a lot of catch and shoot.
Yeah, it was like 1 of 8 from 3.
I'm pretty happy with OG taking a lot of those catch and shoot threes. When he's in rhythm again and his hand is not injured, I'm pretty confident he can knock those down. I think the question is sort of what can you do sort of beyond that, right? Again, there's like a baseline of what OG can do in terms of for his scoring. He can definitely steal the ball. He can definitely play in transition. The Raptors have lots of turnover opportunities. And so there's chances for him, and then there's catch and shoot corner threes. There's like solid baseline there just between those two play types for OG to have like probably 10 points a game, right? It's really about how to get him up to like 18, 19 points. And I think he can touch the ball in the post a little bit more often. I think they were looking for him yesterday. I think the Cavs actually did a pretty good job of, denying and jumping some of those passes. I think that's something that easily a good scouting report should include against the Toronto Raptors, so that they'd like to do the quick hit ahead post entry passes. There was one play where I think in the first quarter, OG got it in the post early, kicked the back out, and I think Pascal got a 3 off of that, right? So there's ways that you can contribute to the offense even without necessarily taking the shot. And I think the Raptors were trying to, emphasize that point. I mean, the one guy I've seen consistently try to involve OG is Scotty. It's very clear to me that Scotty wants to, at times, to me, it feels like force-feeding OG, but, he definitely looks to OG a lot, right? And even some of the turnovers, when we look through the tape, there's at least 3 or 4 turnovers where Scotty is just trying to feed OG, and OG's not ready for it, or the opposing team reads the play and jumps the pass, stuff like that. But the intention is to get the ball to OG. What you can necessarily get out of that offense, I think, is remains to be seen. But at the same time, with Fred being out in the lineup, and it's just as I described, there's so many extra possessions available. Who else is going to take on some of that creation? We've seen Gary try to ramp up his creation. That has not really looked good in terms of what the numbers have been in the last 3 games. We have seen Gary also succeed without Fred in the lineup, to be clear. But at the same time, the last 3 games that we're looking at here, he hasn't really done that. They haven't used OG as much in terms of just like, we're looking to you to initiate more offense for us. But the thing is also just like, okay, well, that's fine. But more than anything else from OG, what I really want is like elite defense at all times. And I understand the concept of like you give guys touches so that they're more engaged. But I also think that that's what you give people salaries for. And so when your number one item on the job is you play lockdown defense against the opposing stars, and you watch the highlights of just Donovan Mitchell last night, how many of those involved OG and getting crossed up by Mitchell, who was able to get free and get confidence early in the game, maintain it, and then just shut the door in the third quarter? He didn't even have to play in the fourth quarter, right? So, well, I guess, did he come back in a little bit? I'm not totally sure. But the point is the game was over in the fourth. I need I need defense from OG more than anything else. And I think that that's where a lot of the game was lost last night, was the Raptors just could not guard Donovan Mitchell at all. And I needed OG to do better on defense on that part. So that was my bigger concern.
Yeah, that's my big concern for this team too. And like we saw it again last night, and I think in a lot of the games early in the season too. Just like, it just feels like on the defensive end, they just like go with the rope so easily. Like it's so easy for them to turn like a 5-point game into like a 20-point game.
Yeah. And some of that is also just bad offense when you really watch it. Like, towards the third quarter, I thought, okay, the Cavs were definitely like starting to pull away, and the lead was getting to double digits, and the crowd was getting into it. But then the Raptors would respond poorly by getting a bad shot, a live ball turnover here. Chris Boucher takes a 3 here, or like Pascal drives in and tries to play for the whistle and doesn't get the whistle, and he's falling over, and the Cavs are breaking. Like that is just. That's another thing we've seen from the Raptors all season, is just that there's not that consistency in terms of that maturity to execute on offense, where you're able to get good shot balance and you're able to get back in transition. And so that's where a lot of those games start to balloon. Like even if you watch it last night, the Cavs got tons of runouts, like Jared Allen beating everyone down the floor for dunks, or like Mitchell being the trailer for threes, right? Like those are plays that you can avoid so much if you can have better execution offensively. And that just wasn't really there yesterday at all.
Yeah. All right, what else from this weekend? Do you want to talk briefly about how funny it is the Pistons have Marvin Bagley and James Wiseman as their future front court?
Yeah, that
was Pacific Mall, David Robinson, Tim Duncan.
Oh man,
actually, that's disrespect to Pacific Mall.
I was gonna say, man, come on, man, that's Woodbine Mall almost. That might be Cloverdale Mall. Shout out to the West End, but the Pistons. I mean, you got to give Bagley credit. He actually did a great job.
Yo, Bagley almost won that game.
Yeah, 21 and 18. He tried to take the game-winning shot.
What? He was what I thought Kem Birch was going to be for us.
Really? Oh, man.
He was flicking shots.
Oh, you were disappointed,
at the basket,
weren't you? Damn. Okay.
I was like,
I'm sure Kem is enjoying that comp in San Antonio right now.
Oh, man.
But, yeah, the Pistons just have this history of, like, number 2 picks who are bigs that didn't really pan out. And they've had those 2 guys now. They obviously had Darko way back when.
Yeah.
Which I guess they did win the championship with Darko.
They did, yeah. But they could have had Melo, I guess.
They could have had Melo. I think they might have also been able to win the championship with Melo, just to be clear, in the Darko role. But
I'm checking to see if Hashim Thabit ever made it on the Pistons.
Yeah, they got to get him too. They got to get. I guess Beasley wasn't necessarily a big in that same way, even though he was a power forward in a lot of his positions.
Also, would you put Michael Beasley as that level of a bust?
No. I wouldn't. I wouldn't. By the way, to be clear.
Yeah, come on, man.
Super cool bees.
Yeah, but man, I'm looking at that Pistons teams. Obviously, Cade was out. Jaden Ivey's really nice. Man, they get Victor Wembanyama. Like that team gonna be a problem pretty quickly if they're healthy. I feel. Like.
I mean,
that's a really young core.
They might be the only team that has just more bigs than the Raptors, man. Where is he gonna play? No, of course. I mean, like honestly, it's funny because
Wembanyama, Cade, and Ivy, and then you got these other guys.
I mean, Ivy is really nice. But he also shot 3 of 14, man.
No, that's fine. But he's a rookie. Like you gotta let him play through, right? Like
so that's my problem with the young guys. We're like, we only say when they play well, and then when they play bad, they're a rookie.
That's fair.
Come on, man. You're an adult when you're in the league.
We got to be harder on them, is what you're saying. Isaiah Livers.
Yeah. Did you know about Isaiah Livers?
Man,
Pascal dropped him. That was nice. That was the play of the weekend.
Yeah.
Aside from Dame Lillard having 71 points.
When he had him on skates.
But he dropped him. That was a legit crossover.
But Livers came back with that wild dunk too, right?
Yeah.
Was that on Pirtle? Yeah.
That was on Jakob Pirtle. He by the way, Jakob Pirtle is like, he's on a lot of posters.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people got posters of Jakob Pirtle on their wall, and it's not because of Yak.
It's because of him being in sound position, and
I guess so.
My favorite.
What a way to spin this.
What kind of propaganda is this?
This guy gets posted because he plays good D.
Because he's sound. Because of verticality.
How far we fallen?
Actually, my favorite was on the Sportsnet broadcast on Saturday against Detroit. OG had a dunk in the second quarter.
Yeah.
And they went to commercial break, and like the dunk brought the Raptors within 2. And Alvin was so excited. He shouted, "Let's go home, baby."
You know what?
In the second quarter, as they're trailing by 2. Listen, I love Alvin.
Was he right or was he wrong, man?
I know that's something that you say when someone has a huge dunk. But in the context of the game being in the second quarter, 40 to 38 Pistons. I just had to note that down. That was my game note. It was a highlight from Alvin. Shouts to Alvin.
Yeah, speaking of game notes, man, the game notes yesterday were starting to struggle. Like, again, I don't want to, it's a one-off. It really is a one-off. The Raptors have been playing better basketball of late, and Cleveland is a better team.
Did you write things?
No, I did not write things yesterday. I'm taking care of my grandma. Shouts to her, I guess.
Oh, yeah. Shouts to Mission Chinese. Yeah.
But these are my notes, okay? Because usually I'll take notes in terms of just like what happened.
People don't know. Very meticulous notes.
Okay, by the third quarter, it started falling apart. These are the final few notes I had. Cavs challenge. Mitchell knees Yak's groin. Upgraded to flagrant. Yak makes 2. Gary finally gets a 3 to drop. Okoro corner 3. Mitchell transition 3. Okoro corner 3. Yak scores on a putback. Wieskamp gets in late, 3rd. Pascal foul baiting. OG buzzer beating 3 on a broken play to end the quarter. Wheezy airball 3 times 2. Chris Boucher keeps jumping on every fake, and Nick Nurse puts Pascal back in the game down 27, question mark. And then no more notes because it was just like this game was so over at that point.
Oh, man. RIP to the Wheezy movement.
That was tough. It's not. Did you want to see Wieskamp in the game earlier against Detroit or against against the Cavs?
To be honest, I really wasn't thinking about that, man. I feel like it's pretty.
I saw a lot of people online being like, Gary's struggling.
Let's space the floor, get a shooter out there.
Yeah.
I guess so. I guess that's what you sign him for, but
I'll have to say,
I don't know if Wheezy's going to be swinging games, to be honest. I'd be thrilled if he is.
No, I mean, it's sort of like a shot in the dark kind of thing. It was like last year with Armani Brooks as well. I think.
Or that 1 week we started Wancho this season. Remember that?
Oh, yeah.
What was
Yeah.
Was that part of a Netflix agreement? Yeah.
As Gary said, I'm not sure what we were doing at certain points in November, but everyone was trying to figure it out.
So what happened in November? He's like, I don't know, man.
He's like, I don't know, man.
How do you not know an entire month?
Remember Thad? We beat the Cavs with Thad and Wancho starting one of those games, and then Scotty came off the bench, Gary came off the bench, and there was the whole thing about like. Oh my god. Anyway, I don't want to revisit all this stuff, but
yeah. So Wheezy airball goes, and then
that's disappointing.
Why did Nick put in the starters again? They were down like 30.
Yeah, I thought for sure that it was just gonna be one of those wave the white flag.
Yeah, I don't like to be one of those guys because I guess given the NBA now, like you can come back from like a 15-point deficit, but that game was.
Can you come back making just 2s? Because that's what the Raptors are trying to do.
Nick's trying to find out, man.
You cannot make comebacks with 2s and 1s, man. Yeah. You got to hit some 3s.
I think as long as there's no game tomorrow. Actually, I've seen Nick do this on back-to-backs too, so never mind.
Yeah.
Nick this is
No,
just
I mean,
Nick.
Listen, it is sort of every game's a must win.
And he's just disgusted.
But at the same time, it's
like, I don't want to see these guys in garbage time.
Yeah.
It's like anything it takes to not have Malachi on the court.
What else do you have on here? Yes, Jeff
Oh
propaganda.
yes, Jeff propaganda. You know, Jeff's firmly in the rotation now, right? Like, do you
Yeah.
expect that to be the case moving forward? I think he's proven himself. You know, he's in that little trusted circle that Nick likes to have. It's a very small circle
Right.
when it comes to these like end of bench players. Reminds me of a little Justin Champagny last year when he got a little bit of a run
Okay.
there, right?
Sure.
Come in, do
Yeah.
solid things. But yeah, I don't know. Jeff's nice on defense. You know, he's got hit a three yesterday, did he? Like, you know, he's
Oh,
got,
yeah.
yeah.
Well-
And I just think he just does the right things when he's out there. I'm not trying to hype him up that much.
No,
It's
I
Jeff
agree with
down.
you.
Shouts to Jeff's family, but you know, yeah.
Okay, I don't know if they're watching this show, but that's cool that you want to support their family. No, I think for Jeff, it's just like I'm not looking for spectacular. I'm looking for solid. I'm looking for on-ball defense.
And he's been solid. He's been solid.
Well, Nick also said in the Pistons game, you know, like I trust him against the best players on the opposing
Oh,
side.
he gassing him up already?
So I was like, okay, all right. So, you know,
Nick will
but
either gas you up or just tear you down, man. There's no middle. There's no middle.
It's just like the React Pod. But like, yeah, I think, you know, Jeff has come in and provided you some on-ball creation. I thought, you know, running some of those pick and rolls in the first half, I thought he was actually successful.
Yeah.
You know, he knocked down a pull-up three. I think it was a late shot clock scenario. He had to get something up, but he made it. He also had a nice play where he, you know, drove into the middle of the lane and faded away for a little pull-up jumper in the mid-range. But it also felt like as soon as he started scoring, the Cavs were like, oh, he can score? Okay, we'll play defense on him. And then, like, he had nothing else the rest of the way. So, but the point is, I'm just looking for solid, and I'm looking for defense. And I think Jeff has consistently brought that for you. I'm not looking for like any sort of like 30-point outburst or even 15-point outburst.
No.
But, you know, I think there is a role for him to play, and I think that he's getting that chance. Like Delano's with the 905. It doesn't really sound like he's going to come back anytime soon. And Malachi is, you know, only coming in the third quarter. Right, you saw Malachi yesterday. What did you think of Malachi yesterday in the fourth quarter? I had no notes, so I need someone else to consult.
No, I think the ship has sailed on Malachi. Just in terms of this season, and then Malachi got an extended run too, right? Like for all the
honestly,
talk
in some of these games, like even against the Pistons game, I wouldn't have minded if Malachi came in, or if Malachi came in against the Cavs yesterday. I don't think it would have swung anything necessarily, but it was like if you're looking for more pick and roll play, if you're looking for more shooting, you could look at a guard.
Yeah,
you know,
but these are
guard.
such
But
desperate plays, man.
I hear you.
Like it's, you know, shouts to Malachi's family, but you know, like it's,
oh man,
it's
come
Malachi
on, man.
Flynn. Like,
all right,
we need better options. Anyways,
all right, we're gonna take a break. All right, I've been your host, Will, and you've been listening to the Raptors Show on the Sportsnet Radio Network. Welcome back to the Raptors Show on the Sportsnet Radio Network. I'm your host, Wayne Lou. Continue to be joined by producer and co-host Alex Wong. How was your weekend, man? Before we get into these around the league topics.
Yeah, it was good. I went to check out Peaches Sports Bar in Parkdale with our friend Lauren Mitchell.
Oh, nice.
Friend of the program.
Yeah.
So also
what did you watch? What'd you go for?
I don't know, just to check out the establishment.
Oh,
some
you weren't even
drinks and
watching
food. I
sports or
mean,
anything?
I guess there was a Leafs game on,
Right.
but wasn't really watching.
Was it the overtime win or the 5-1?
It was the.
Look at me watching Leafs
what's
recently.
going on?
Oh no,
Man?
I was been catching up with family and stuff. So my dad was pressing me to give him live play-by-play of the Leafs 2-1 win in overtime. Fantastic one-man effort by William Nylander to win back the puck. And
Big Willie.
Yeah.
Yeah, your dad's a big.
He's a big Leafs fan.
Leafs fan, right? Is he a Kipper and Bourne guy, a Merritt guy? What do you think?
He's a Justin and Ailish guy because he
that's
wakes
right.
up to the
Work
fan.
Schedule.
Yeah. Every morning he hears Justin and Ailish and he knows it's time to go to work.
This is elite elevator music hours. Yeah, and then went to this spot called Chicken King in Scarborough. I don't know if you ever heard of it. It's an establishment.
Okay, that's cool.
Finch and Midland.
What kind of food?
They literally just serve you boxes of like shredded and salted chicken. Like they just take a whole chicken and cut it
what
up.
kind of what nationality of cuisine?
I guess it's just Chinese.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got you.
Anyways,
you
shouts
say
to
that?
Sexy Beast for the recommendation.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Also, shouts
NK
to
from Livestock.
Shouts to everybody on Friday. By the way, who worked in downtown Toronto on Friday. The subway shutdown was very untimely. With the weather and everything like that.
If you saw two Asians on a Grand Theft Auto mission biking on board.
Actually, I was hoping that no one would see us because this is what happened. We got out of work and we were going to the subway and just going home. We were heading westbound. And the subway was shut off from St. Clair through Woodbine, which is a very, very long stretch.
Sure. Yeah.
And it was like 4 o'clock. Which is rush hour, especially for on a Friday when people are trying to get home early.
Yeah.
The weather was also fairly cold. It was like -10 with lots of wind.
Yeah.
And had freshly snowed.
Yeah, streets were bad.
And the streets, and we got out, we walked to the station, and we saw so many people waiting for the bus. And of course, this is being Bloor. Like, it's not like you could just put in shuttle buses and everything's fine. Not for Bloor, not for rush hour. Like, the bus wasn't moving at all.
No.
So I decided we should just rent bikes and just bike to St. George from the office.
And we did it.
And during that stretch, and we had to like weave in and out of traffic, ride over some snow and ice. All sorts of people were in and out of that lane. Had to dodge people, had to yell at a couple cars and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it was an adventure.
And the whole time I was just thinking, like, I hope no one sees us. You know what I mean? I just hope that this is already bad enough. I just want to get to St. George, dock the bike, and hop on the subway.
No, it was broke boys on Bloor.
And as soon as we got to Young and Bloor, someone was like, "Oh, Alex and Will." I was like, "Damn,
no, really? Seriously?
Yeah,
was there somebody?
I was like, it was so cold too. I was wearing like a sock over my mouth or whatever. Like,
yeah.
I was like, please don't look at me,
you
man.
Literally did have
I'm
a
just
sock
trying to
on
go
your
home.
head.
The subway's down.
You were Mr. Socko for no reason.
Honestly, man, that was a tough.
We made it, man.
Friday.
Shouts to the 41 bus.
Oh yeah,
it's good times.
Where'd you go to there, man?
Just went to one of my favorite stores, Later Art and Style, to pick up this.
Got you.
This little top that you've been making fun of me for because there's 2 little pouches.
I wish people could see this on TV, but yeah.
Anyways, woke up today, just listening to hashtag This League.
Oh yeah,
uncut. Just
bedtime stories with Mark Stein.
Catching up on some old episodes, and Chris Haynes was recalling his experience at All-Star Weekend, and as we know, we've had some dealings with Chris Haynes in person. He's an A-lister, VIP type of dude, and he shared a story about a poker game that he was invited to in Salt Lake City, Utah. Here's his story.
Invited me to participate in his charity poker tournament, and so I said I would play because he said he really needed me. This is like 2 days before I had to leave for Salt Lake. And so I didn't know how to play. And that's the one thing I left off when talking to Kenny, because he acted like he needed me so bad. He said these big celebrities were going to be there. And I'm like, man, Kenny think I'm a celebrity. I got to be there. So I grabbed my neighbors. This would have been Wednesday of last week. I grabbed my neighbors. They all know how to play poker. They came over. We played poker at my house from like 8 p.m. to like midnight. And I got pretty good. I actually won the last 2 games. So I'm feeling okay. So Stein, I go to Kenny's party, which is slash a poker tournament. I go to the table, and the man that's conducting this particular table, there's multiple tables, but the man that's conducting this particular table, Baron Davis is there, Robin Thicke is there, and the guy tells me it's a $10,000 buy-in. I immediately turned around and went to the party instead.
So this was a Kenny Smith poker tournament.
Yeah, I gotta go to All-Star, man.
Number one.
This sounds great.
Number one, yes, you gotta go to All-Star one time.
Yeah.
Go when it's like, shouts to all our listeners in Salt Lake City. Go when it's not. We don't
have listeners
go
in Salt
when
Lake
it's
City,
not
man.
in Salt Lake City.
We have listeners in Corner Brook. We have listeners. What's the Moose place in Saskatchewan?
Yes.
Corner
man.
Moose.
Yeah. They're not all corner, man. This guy's like corner gas right now.
Might as well be a corner gas. No, but seriously though, like that sounds really fun. But I don't know if we have any listeners in Salt Lake City. So go ahead. Just say Salt Lake City.
No, like you got to go when it's like in LA or something like that.
Okay.
Like a well-adjusted situation. No, shouts to Salt Lake City. But yeah, Kenny. So for context, Kenny Smith has a huge party like every year.
Yeah. Okay.
So like the first time that I did All-Star, I think it was in New York. You do this like meet and greet thing with the TNT guys. Like they basically let you, rotate, interview them for like 5-10 minutes, get your quotes, right?
Right.
And at the end, after Kenny does interviews with every media, he hands you a pass to his party, basically.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Like unless like I guess if he like really doesn't like you, but he's like,
all right.
like he's a man of the people type.
Got you.
Because like there's a lot of different parties going on. Like,
yeah.
Like, our friends at Clutch had a party that Chris Haynes talked about.
Right.
Where apparently Haynes didn't want to snitch, but he said that there were several GMs there, like conducting business, and all these different agencies.
Why is Bobby getting signed to Clutch too? Like, what's happening, man? The Toronto Raptors, man.
Yeah, but TNT, like Kenny's party is known as one of the like parties to go to.
Got you. All right.
So Haynes obviously got the invite, but I was gonna ask you like. $10,000 buy.
Obviously not. No, I'm not doing $10,000.
What if me and you $5,000 each?
I thought it was like 500 each. I'm like, yeah, I'll consider it. I really will consider that because I love poker that much. But no, I mean, 10K is outrageous. I think Chris made the right move here. But my thing with the clip
I think it was also how much does Chris make? Because I feel like he makes decent.
Anyways,
nobody. No pocket watching.
No media is really making that kind of money. Where 10K for a buy-in is just a regular thing. But
he on TV though.
Yeah, so we're on TV. It's different.
Yeah, but
anyway. When he was like, I got my neighbors around and we started playing poker from like 8 p.m. and I'm like, oh yeah, it's gonna be like it's gonna be like 8 a.m. or something.
Till midnight.
He's like, till midnight. I'm like, what kind of poker is this,
He's
man?
like, I had to report on Bruce Brown's injury.
You're not playing poker until you play it for like 9 hours straight and your eyes are blurry and you're eating just random chips. And you're also putting in random chips. Like,
and Ennis is like, you can't leave.
And it's like, I haven't bought in for the 10th time.
This is now a gated community. We're now closing the gates on the door.
Yo, it's tough, man. When I see, the thing is, every time I play poker with Ennis, we start at like 6 or 7, and I can't catch the bus home, man. I gotta Uber home.
No, you gotta write to your family and let them know you might not see them for 48, man. But yeah, 10K. So 10K is a no. Is a no for you. Yeah.
American too.
But think about it,
10K like renminbi or like yen, like yeah, definitely. But no,
were they saying this guy talking? I'm talking RMB, you talking RMB.
I'm talking RMB.
I'm talking Neo, you talking RMB. How did the show go off the rails?
Because the Raptors lost.
But think about the table though. Baron Davis, I think he was saying Robin Thicke, like you could take these guys.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, probably. But
you're not willing to take that risk.
That's a big risk. It seems like you are, though. You seem itching for it, man. I don't know.
You know how on tilt I'll be, though, if I go to Salt Lake City and I lose 10K on the first night?
Yeah, but you just buy in again.
I'm going to have to hit up my friends at Brett Rivers, man.
Man. By the way, hearing you talk about covering All-Star Weekend, was it with Sports on Earth? Because I was listening to your pod with Raptors Moments. Shout out Raptors Moments.
Yeah,
Mr. Moments.
Yeah, shouts to Moments.
He's had me on the pod, and then he had you on the pod next. Great
episode. Go check him out on YouTube.
For everyone who was listening,
shared a bunch of insider stories.
Yo, that was the longest episode I've ever heard you on, man. You were on there for an hour and like 50 minutes.
Yeah, that was a meta pod, and that doesn't even include the 45 minutes off air.
Right. You're talking about
we chatted about our personal lives.
Right. You told me you looked them eye to eye and forehead to forehead, considering the fact that he's always wearing the headband.
Yeah. Show us Sports on Earth, man. But yeah, you You should cover All-Star once. I think.
Okay.
I think it'd be a cool experience for you.
I agree.
You're gonna come back with 3 pairs of PGs to add to the
this sounds great, man. If I don't have to spend $10K for buying
this
it,
is
and I
literally
get some
just
PGs.
all Star is getting invited to brand parties.
Yeah.
And hoping that they have a little gift bag for you. That's it.
Why else would you go to a brand party?
Yeah, no, but that's like the
actually,
entire All-Star.
What else you got in here? Play-in tournament vibe check. This is why we were buying time, because I don't know if people wanted to check these vibes.
I might actually want to skip that first.
Oh, okay.
I want to talk about Damian Lillard dropping 71
Got you.
yesterday against the Houston Rockets. Highest scoring total in a regulation game since Kobe's 81. Because Donovan Mitchell's 71, I believe, required overtime.
Right. I was just gonna say.
Just want to read off a number of these are all players who have gone up against the Houston Rockets this season. Tyler Hero 41, Devin Booker 41, Klay Thompson 41, and then 42 another time. Shea 42, Trae Young 44, Anthony Edwards 44, Giannis 44, LeBron 48, Ja Morant 49, Larry Markkinen 49, Luka 50, and Dame Lillard 71. Thinking this is Stephen Silas's last year on the job.
I hope so, for his sake.
Honestly, same.
Yeah, like he looks like the saddest coach.
Yeah,
like all the coaches in the league, and a lot of them are not in good condition just because of how hard you got to work and how much travel and how much stress that goes into it.
Well, I just think if it takes 2 years and you still can't teach your team how to break a full court press, it's not it's not the coach, it's the player. You know,
what did Chauncey do yesterday, man? Full court press the whole game.
It's not me, it's you. Like, it really is.
This is tough. All against one team.
Yeah, my question for you though is, do you think someone's going to break Wilt Chamberlain's 100-point record soon? Because it does seem like we're starting to creep up.
Okay, hold on.
Okay.
You just need so many possessions to get to that point. Like, you would need a game similar to what we saw on the weekend where the Clippers played the Kings, which, by the way, awesome display of offense.
Yeah.
It's funny because I was watching that late Friday night, and then I woke up and then I covered Raptors Pistons at noon. And Raptors Pistons was 95-91, and the other game was 176-174.
Yeah, big contrast.
Okay, or so 175.
Not even the scoring, just the quality of basketball. The offensive
quality, execution, everything like that was completely different. You need a game like that where you go into the overtime periods and all that kind of stuff. You need that type of scoring. And, I mean, I think at some point, like, aren't teams just going to double team you? Right? Like, you got to figure teams.
I mean, you would have thought that when Kobe dropped 81, but.
Okay, that's different. But you need, like, somebody to hit probably
does the double team
15 threes or something like that.
But does the double team even matter if guys like Dame is just shooting, you know, like cross half court? Or like you mentioned, you need 15 threes. Like we just saw Klay, I think, hit 12 threes again the other night, right?
Was that also not against Houston? I'm pretty sure that was against Houston.
It was. But I'm saying, though, like Dame, even if you look at this 71-point game, Dame played 39 minutes.
Yep.
So technically left like 9 minutes on the table. He did shoot 38 times, though. So
I mean, we've seen guys shoot more. I watched Kobe shoot 50 times.
No, of course.
So I think you need that kind of scenario. Like, you would need so many possessions. You would need to be able to make double-digit threes at the minimum. You need to get to the free throw line 20 times. And you need the other team to not foul you or not to double team you that much. You also need
a close game
so you're in the game. Yeah. You also need overtime. You just need so many things. I don't think you need overtime. Which is why, again, I need more proof of Wilt's 100 points, man. Yeah. There's no way you watch a game like Dame yesterday, you're like, wow, that was amazing. You're like, someone scored 29 more points on that. Like, what were they doing in that game where Wilt scored 100 points?
No.
100 even? Like, it's suspicious, man. It's not even like a random number like 81 or 71 or whatever. Like, we're talking about 100 on the dot.
We need the full footage so we can get the 100-point game react pod, man.
Yeah, I would love to see it, man.
I want to know who the Gerald Henderson of that game is.
Somebody probably had like 40 assists in that game,
man. Mo Cheeks with 4 points. No, Mo Cheeks too young for that. Yeah. No, I think... No, I'm going to go ahead and say, man, Wilt Chamberlain's record's going to fall by the year 2025.
Who's going to do it? You got to pick somebody to do it. Dame is a good candidate. Like, Dame is actually a good candidate.
I mean, Dame, Steph, Klay, I think those are the candidates.
But, like, for Klay, like, how many catch and shoot threes can you really get?
I know.
Klay would have to hit, like, 30 threes to even get within the, not 30 threes, but, like, 25 threes.
You know what? I'm going to go with Trae Young. I just think Trae Young. I'm just going to say Trae Young's going to randomly.
Really?
Yeah, who are you going with, man? Pick your Wilt.
I don't think someone's going to break the 100 points record.
Pick your Wilt, man.
I think someone could break the Kobe record, though, the 81. I think someone could do 81.
Yeah, but I see people talking about like, oh, like someone's got to get to 82. But why are we using Kobe's record as a bar, not Wilt?
Because again, Wilt is this fantastical thing. We saw Kobe do 81. I saw Kobe do 81 live. I think it was on the score at that time. Like I saw that thing.
Pretty sure it was
It
actually
was a Sunday. The Raptors were up in the first half.
I was actually at a poker table.
I'm sure you were already at the 10K buy-ins, man. Shout out to that.
Shout out to Port Perry Casino.
Oh man. But no, seriously though, like that we've seen. So like that one feels more 82 tangible.
82 is not even that far from 100, man. I'm not trying to basic math.
Okay, but 82 is definitely closer to 71, which we've seen twice now in the last couple of months.
Sure. So you think if someone gets to 82, you would consider that like a groundbreaking thing?
Absolutely.
Just the fact that they've broken Kobe.
Absolutely.
And maybe it'll happen against the Raptors. Yeah. Just to bring it full circle. Yeah. Anyways,
I hope not. Man.
So you're not picking anybody. I went out on a limb and picked Trae Young. Just pick a player.
82. I'll probably pick Dame. You need a guy on a team who no one else can even score too.
Yeah.
So.
By the way, Dame also said last week, he's heard all the haters like making fun of him of like always being loyal to Portland.
We know you listen to #ThisLeague. We get it, man.
And he's like, these guys better pray that I don't win a championship in Portland.
I don't think anyone's prayed that Dame Lillard's not going to win a championship.
I'm going to be saving my prayers for other things. I think I'm good on this one.
Legit, man. God's busy, man. God has other things to do. Man. Yeah.
Yep, that's it.
Salute to Dame, though, man. Just a phenomenal player. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, it's probably got to be in a team in the Western Conference, too, because you got to be able to play Houston 4 times a year. You got more cracks at it. Anyway, that does it for us today. I'm your host, Walu, and you've been listening to The Raptors Show on the Sportsnet Radio Network. Make sure you find The Raptors Show wherever you listen to podcasts and subscribe. And please rate and review the show. Reminder, we're streaming live on Sportsnet's YouTube channel and airing live on Sportsnet 360, Monday to Friday from 2 to 3 p.m. Blake Murphy Tuesday returns tomorrow. Yeah, excited for that. We haven't had Blake in a while. And in the meantime, thanks again to producer and co-host Alex Wong. Thanks to board producer Derek Van Dale and Jennifer Rolnick for helping us with the YouTube stream. And we will be back tomorrow.
Let you choose the